This miniature is pissing me off. See, I've been kind of having a bit of a hard time with this miniature. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm only really painting it to battle ready, but it and the other one that I own, they've got this really nice like crab claw on them, and I want it to look badass. You know, it's a really standout feature of the miniature, and so I want to do something to make it look cool, and I've been racking my brain and I can't figure it out. So what do you do in that situation? Well, for me, what I tend to do, if it's something natural like that, I consult nature. If it's something industrial, I consult industry. I go and look at references for the thing that I'm trying to do and see where I can sort of figure out some way to kind of marry what's actually going on in the real world into my painting. So the first thing I wanted to do was like have a look through some images on Google. So I just did a Google search for crab claw, I think. The first thing I fell in love with was this purple looking one. It's just cool and it's different, and that's a really, really great thing. But when I thought about it, purple and red, not the best fit. They're going to kind of give each other a bit of a hard time. So the next one that I found was this brutal image that you're going to see on screen now of like a torn up crab claw. It'd obviously come off an actual crab. The orange to bone kind of thing, like it makes it really recognizable as a crab claw, which is super cool. And I like the way the orange and the yellow and the bony colours and the sort of deep brown stuff, it's all sort of in a gradient together. I think that's really cool, and that kind of allows me to do something that works for my kind of painting. I also found this bright yellow dude who was like really, really funny looking, and I thought that would be very striking and very cool and very interesting, but my beloved 17th, like, I really love the word bearers, and I feel like they have to be mean because that's their thing. They're supposed to look just evil, and the bright yellow crab claw, it wasn't going to work as cool as it was. So this one's actually more like a continuation of the next one then. This guy sort of, you know, it has the orange to bone kind of thing going on, but all the colours are sort of a bit darker here. And that's really good to know, because by finding that in a reference, that tells me I don't have to go for these really sort of bright, saturated, you know, bubblegummy, poppy sort of oranges. I don't tend to like painting with too many overexposed colours. That's very 90s Warhammer to me. So it tells me that it's okay to go for some more sort of deepy, earthy, more realistic tones, which is a plus. And lastly, I found this chunky boy who I looked at and I was like, well, you know, this is more of the same. This is more of what I've already seen. It's that sort of red, brown, black kind of deal. But he has this cool crackle pattern on his claws, which I really, really like. And I did sort of think to myself, maybe I'll use that. I'll sort of take a look how it's layering up and see if I want to put that crackle pattern in. So that's a good bit of inspiration. So now I'm armed with all that inspiration. I've got all that. That's sorted. I now have some ideas for how to paint this bloody thing. But now I've got to go and actually do it. I've got to figure out how to turn these ideas into something that reads like a crab claw. The first thing I wanted to do was start with a base of bone. And I thought about that because I could have started with the browns and worked towards the bone, but all of those other colours will sit nicely on a bone base, and I'll be able to sort of glaze back into that bone a lot better. So that's going to make more sense. So I'm going to start off by base coating everything in that bone, and then we can start to work from there and see where we get. Right, next up I need a brown that is going to kind of lead out of bone without being too strong, but lead into those kind of orangey reddy browns. So for this I went with Mornfang brown because it has a good sort of reddy orange tone to it. It's actually the brown that I tend to use for shading yellow, specifically because it has a reddy orange tone to it. And I just started to glaze that in and kind of establish where I wanted to start having these shifting blended patterns live. Right, next I need a couple of sort of darker browns, one that I can relate to that previous Mornfang, and then one that's going to relate forward to the black that we're going to be putting on the tips of the claws and stuff like that. So I decided here to go with Doomball Brown for the sort of lighter of the two. Again, it's got a lot of strong red to it, and then Rhinoxhide, which is a very, very dark brown, but again, it stays in that red spectrum, so that should give us a nice run through. I'm just going to keep glazing this in towards the centres of the shapes that I've already established, just continuing the work that's already there, continuing those blends and getting it darker and darker and darker. Right, we're finally at the black. Now we can just start to sort of work black into those tips. And obviously, as you're glazing black forward, it is a very strong colour. So if it does look too stark, if you are a bit worried that it's a bit too much, don't be worried about kind of popping backwards here and there if you need to. Track back sort of as and when. Just fix things as you need to. But we've got this black onto the tips now, so that's all looking good. And then with that black in, the next thing I can do is I can grab an all over wash of Agrax Earthshade here, and just be careful not to let those sort of bony coloured bits take too much of a hit from this Agrax. It can darken things like that a lot, so just be careful to sort of move it off of those bony coloured bits. So let it give them definition, but don't let it wash them down too dark. Right, so after all of that, there's just a few admin bits to take care of, basically, just little bits and bobs here and there to sort of finish up the look. So the first thing I want to do is lighten up those bony areas again, get those looking nice, pop some highlights into any parts of it that I feel need a little bit of a highlight. And then I did sort of have another think about that cracked pattern that we saw earlier and whether or not I wanted that to go in, but to be honest, I sort of liked the way that it was looking and I didn't feel any urgent need to put that back in. So I decided to just carry on as I was. And with all of that said and done, I really like the result that we've got on our guy here. I love the way that this claw sort of mimics nature quite nicely, but it also still fits in with the theme of my army. It's still dark and doomy and chaosy. It still looks like a mutation. It doesn't look like I've just glued a crab claw to a space marine, which would be ridiculous. So I like the sort of trade-off that we've got of something that is natural in terms of how we've painted it, but the sculpt lets us still keep it relating to chaos, making sense in the context of what it's meant to be. Next time you're frustrated with something, just have a bash at referencing what it relates to. Look at industry, look at nature, look at, you know, whatever animal in particular it is, or look at buildings, look at skies, look at trees. Just look at the real world. Find something close to what you're going for and just see if it gives you any inspiration, if it gives you any ideas, and if it gives you any thoughts on where you might be able to go with your paint job to get it doing what you need it to do. Thank you so much for joining me for another one of these. This is, again, that new style of video that I'm trying to bring you. I want to do at least one of these a week for you, along with one of the more sort of complete walkthrough painting videos. Try and cater to all tastes there. So please do get at me in the comments if you're enjoying this style of video. I'm really enjoying making it. It's a lot of fun for me because it's a bit of a different challenge from an editing perspective. If you like the video, then obviously do please click the like button. There's going to be a little thing pop up, but the button you want is down there. Also, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing more. You'll be able to get notifications if you click the notification bell. My subscriber count going up helps me get seen, which is great. You can also, of course, support the channel on Patreon if you do so feel the need to do so. Links to my socials, my Patreon, and all of that stuff will be in the description. Thank you so much once more for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.